Hey guys, what is going on? Captain Marvel. The controversy couldn't be any bigger. People are losing it in YouTube reviews, losing it online. Well, we're getting great box office results reported. What is really going on? Okay, well, here's TechReviewz. I'm not known for my movie reviews, but I've seen all the Marvel Universe MCU movies. I've seen all the DCEU movies. And I'm usually somebody whose initial reaction is, I want to like the movies. I've been a fan of the comics. I do like a lot. So you're not dealing with somebody who is super, super critical, who really likes to get pumped up about these movies. And so let me share my perspective on this with you. So I seen the movie yesterday, and should you watch it? What's my initial response? I think you should go watch it. I don't think you should boycott the movie. Go watch it. It's not a bad movie. It's a fairly good movie. It's just one of the things is we are so hyped up about, Endgame and Infinity War and all the other movies that the bar is really high. There is an established universe already that exists. So these movies get judged a little bit differently, and that's a good thing. There's an attachment to it. Sort of like the LA Lakers. If something's changing there, it is a big deal. And if you're not involved at all with it, you're like, well, who cares? Is it really that big of a deal? Yes, if it happens at the LA Lakers, it is a big deal. And I think to some degree, it makes the whole thing, it makes it interesting for having such big controversy. It's kind of good when people argue about a movie. Now, if the movie flops and tanks, that's not good. And there are indicated that could happen. It could go the other way around. But let me just share my impressions. So first of all, the criticism about Brie Larson being a little bit bland in her performance, maybe, and not being very likable and so forth. I got one thing to say about that. First of all, Captain Marvel in the comics is not a likable character. She's super powerful and she's a badass, but she's somebody who would, blast Tony Stark. She would go against the Hulk. She would it doesn't take long to pick a fight with her. She's not your super likable character. So in that sense, Brie Larson is not unlikable. She has cute moments. She has the banter moments with Nick Fury, with the Skrulls and so forth. By the way, spoiler warning, I won't hold back on spoilers just so we can be really honest with each other. So in that sense, I think Brie Larson did okay. She portrayed a version of Captain Marvel that is somewhat existent in the comics. Now, in the comics, also that has been changed over the years. I think what people are concerned with and where people are finding the problem with the movie, or I would say something that doesn't live up to the super high expectations, is actually the story, partially maybe even the editing and how what the stakes are in a movie. I'm really big at stakes, meaning what happens if the hero, the protagonist, doesn't succeed? Something bad must be happening, and that we've seen that with Captain America. If he fails to stop the villain, there are some serious lives at stake. Now, we see a little bit of that through a story change at the tail end in the third act of the movie, where the Skrulls aren't the bad guys, and it's about saving a good amount of them, but it doesn't warrant like the entire movie gearing towards it, so we are not feeling it as much. Also, there is like the core drive of the movie in the beginning is we have to get to the scientist that is on Earth that discovered light speed travel. Well, the first reaction is that any science fiction comic book fan has or movie watches, well, that's from a Kree perspective, that super technologically advanced race. Well, everybody out there already has speed of light travel. We all have it. That's why we get from planet to planet. The Kree have it. The Skrull have it. The Nova Corps has it. The Guardians of the Galaxy have it. They do light speed travel. So why is this such a big deal? And I think they should have explained better. Well, there is something on Earth that we saw, that we are aware of, that this one scientist is working on, and it would allow instant teleportation through space. That'll be something different. So where it doesn't take 22 hours to get somewhere, 50 hours, 2 weeks at the speed of light or above light speed. So I think that the premise of the movie in that case needs to be very, very needs to be. So I think the premise of that movie needs to be made clearer. Why are the Kree coming to Earth? Why are the Skrull coming to Earth? And then we learn that the scientist Marvel, which in the comics is a guy, is a Kree and dies in a plane crash, which is kind of weird because she sits behind Carol Danvers at that point, who is at that point a human. Kree supposedly is so much stronger physically. She's in the back seat. The front gets hit by a rock or pierces through a rock, and the person in the back dies or sustains fatal injuries. It's very hard to believe somebody who's at the strength level of a Captain America or so, definitely more durable and stronger than a human, would sustain that. Of course, in the original comics, it is Captain Marvel. He is a Kree soldier masquerading as a scientist on Earth, and that story kind of makes sense, and then somehow the powers get transferred through an explosion to Captain Marvel. Also, nobody ever calls Carol Danvers or Verse Captain Marvel in the movie. Why is she Captain Marvel, right? We know why Captain America became Captain America, but why is she called Captain Marvel? They don't even hint at it. I think that is just an oversight. So those are all these things by itself are not like huge problems, but they do add up. How you feel about a certain movie, how you put your emotion into a certain movie. I mean, Avengers, the first Avengers movie, I was trampling during the battle like a 5-year-old. I was excited. I couldn't sleep the night after. I was so pumped up because I'd been looking forward to that movie such a long time. Also, the first Thor, it's like this world. I really liked him, and there's a good amount of movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I really, really like. That made me feel a certain way when I walked out of this movie. How did I feel walking out after Captain Marvel? I felt not bad. Would I watch it again? Yeah, on Blu-ray. So I missed that magic, and we're kind of expecting to see that magic. And I think that's why, for example, Star Wars has this problem with people complaining, is because those first 3 movies had such magic where people went out and went like, wow, that was awesome, and people don't get that feeling, and then they pick the movie apart in the prequels and in the sequels that we're seeing now. They don't get it, right? And it's not hard to it's not that easy, to conjure magic when you watch something. It's not that easy to do that on command, period, right? So now all the criticism is about the political correctness of, being a female superhero in a woke movie and so forth. I felt the agenda in there, that it's about, girls being empowered and so forth, but I don't think it took over the movie. I think it's a good message. I think it's a nice message. I always think that message alone is never enough, right? Like in Black Panther, being black isn't enough to drive the movie. And what didn't work in that sense with Captain Marvel is that you hear they talk about her being held down and she's being a rebel, and you don't see it as much. She's not being that much of a rebel, and you also don't see her being held down that much, right? So her the talking about it is not quite in alignment of what we actually see. Because from the beginning, she has powers. She's not being held back that much. Just her mentor, played by Jude Law, telling her, like, hey, keep it in check. And that kind of makes sense. She's got photon blasts coming from her wrists. You may want to keep that in check. And then later on, she gets super powers, on the level of, I don't know, in the Marvel Universe called the Sentry or Superman in the DC Universe, something like that, being able to fly through space at light speed and not needing to breathe in space. So basically transcending all the other superheroes, which I'm not a fan of, because that's not what Captain Marvel is really. She is very powerful. She is not more powerful than all the others. She's on the level of Tony Stark. She's very powerful. She has the photon blasts, and she can go binary. So there's moments where she can really lose it, sort of like the Phoenix, like conjure like a universal force. But in general, she's like, within the top 5, right? You want her on your side. She's a heavy hitter. But there's a reason why you have a Hulk and you have a Thor in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and also in the Marvel comic book universe, which are cast as the strongest ones. That is sort of like the narrative that we've been building up to. Sort of like Superman being the strongest, and then, what people didn't like, Batman versus Superman is like, because you're building up this one cosmic entity almost, and then you have a guy in a suit with a pill and what else not being able to beat him or go toe-to-toe that quickly. Not that it doesn't make any sense, because none of that makes sense. People flying, people having a hammer, none of it makes sense. But in the story that you've been telling us so far, I think, and move on to the next point, is what does it mean for the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Well, it all depends what's going to happen in Endgame. Is she going to be a heavy hitter, or is she going to transcend all the other heroes, which wouldn't be fair, because she is the newbie, and we've been telling the story from the point of view of our established heroes who had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movies under their belt, and so we know them, and we're emotionally bonded with them. We accepted them, and we know their destinies, we know their powers, we know their struggles. Now, if you bring in somebody at the very, very last minute, it's not going to be credible within that universe. I think she should come and help out and be a heavy hitter. Maybe a second movie, maybe skip Endgame and come back at the very end, or, just when all hope is lost and just when everything's in the balance, you make her the tipping point, right? That I can see. So I hope this talking here of me talking and going on about the movie, not in a chronological fashion, gives you sort of an idea maybe to process what you've seen. Again, a lot to like in the movie. Let me say this, some of her acting, especially the banter, I really like it. Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson is great. He's a little bit greener, he's a little bit fresher, not as hardened as we know him. That's great. Ben Mendelsohn, Scott Mendelsohn is really good as a Skrull. He's got humor. He talks like a human. He feels like a human. Hey, why can't I be your boss? Why would I be a filing cabinet? I mean, there's some interesting conversation in there that makes these guys almost too human. In the beginning, we see them as these monsters, and then they turn out to be like, you could have a water cooler talk at the office with. So a little bit maybe out of what I expected, but it does work. I don't think Monica and Maria Rambeau really worked. I don't think they were necessary characters other than just to add 2 females. And Annette Bening, it didn't work for me. She, you are a Kree and you have powers. You should have more swagger. You're a Kree scientist. You should have more knowledge. You should be a little bit more stronger and not like this elderly woman. I liked her as the Supreme Intelligence, where the cunning side comes out. I liked her as that, but as the scientist, as Marvel, I didn't like her as much. What else? The cat story. I like cats. I liked seeing the cat turning into a gigantic beast, opening up its mouth with tentacles. That's a Man in Black situation, when Will Smith helps giving birth in Men in Black. No, didn't work for me. Not really necessary. All the other Kree, they're extremely powerful. I don't think we see how powerful they are. I'd like to, we kind of get an idea. And then the banter that they have, at work. Well, you're a really good-looking guy, and then they're on the subway, on Kree, on Hala, at the Kree home world, and it's almost too human-like, the banter. Hey, what's up, and what have you been doing? It's, it's told very much from an American thinking perspective, and just with people with masks on and body paint, and same thing with the Skrull. I think also the prosthetics, I don't think they were very good. You can see that's a guy in a mask like in an 80s or 90s movie. So didn't deter me from enjoying that, but I noticed the fight scenes, a lot of them were in the dark. In the third act, nothing really at stake. She's never in real danger. And so it makes yeah. And then, Jude Law's character, he's kind of the good guy mentored, and it turns out he's like not that good. He's like being conniving, but and scheming, but not in that bad of a way either. She's just part of that system, of that Kree world. We don't get to understand really where the Kree are coming from. In Star Trek, we always get to understand where a race is coming from, what their true agenda is. And so we didn't learn anything about out of space, about space out there, about maybe Phase 4 taking place in space. So there's a lot of me talking, just putting some thoughts into your head. Where would I rate the movie out of 5 stars? Like if we treat it as a Yelp review, I would say a 3.9, which is not bad. It's not glorious, but yeah, not bad. Nothing to go. No YouTube hate videos are needed. Good movie with a lot of reservations that I just mentioned. The big question is, and the big plea is, please integrate it well with Endgame. And we're so close to Endgame. Those cards might already have been played. So I don't know if they can do edits, if they did, if they read all the reviews and people's reactions. A lot is at stake. People are attached to the comics, to the movies. A lot of goodwill has been built up. A story has been told. A universe has been crafted. It needs to make sense. TechReviewz out. Bye. What happens when Thor meets Carol Danvers? Let's have a look. A big moment.
I like this one.
I mean, wow, how cool was that? The look that she gave him, but first of all, the stance, the pose, then the camera work, it's definitely done by different directors, maybe geared a little bit more to a male audience. I won't lie about that. It just looks so good. All the workout has been paying off for Brie Larson, but then the look she gives him, the little bit of squinting that she does with her eyes that she does during Captain Marvel. And, Thor, a little bit rough around the edges in the beginning, just like with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And, that scene is just magic. He brings in Stormbreaker, the pure energy weapon, harnessing, the power of a neutron star. And she's got photon power shooting from her wrists. Absolutely awesome. And Scarlet Witch is probably like, what's going on here? I love it. I love the whole trailer. And now, gotta go rewatch Captain Marvel. Go rewatch Captain Marvel. And then, man, if we had a time-traveling suit, Quantum Verse, gotta go straight into April and fast forward to the premiere of Avengers Endgame. How cool is that? Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what you took from all of this. What's going to happen? How well are they going to work together? And who is stronger, Thor or Captain Marvel? Is she really one of the most powerful, or actually the most powerful hero? Or is it more like in the comics where Hulk and Thor are stronger? What would you like to see? Well, this is exciting. Anyways, here's a little bit from the comics. TechReviewz out.